6. Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm just going to share my screen and do a from the beginning. There we go. So if you remember back at the beginning of the year, this is our mission for the year, to make a difference. So that's what Sian and I are doing, making a difference for you. So I wanted to, well, we've said hello, we've said how are you? So if you're watching this as a recording, I hope you're well. And I'd like you to cast your mind back. I've realised it's over a month since the last time that we shared information about bookings. And it was actually when I was away, Kate did the training with Sian. And I don't know, can any of you remember what Kate, what she shared at the time? Does anyone have any memory of what we did on the 14th? Bookings, things about number 2, so 2 themes, 2 dates, formats of showcasing, and I believe you had a challenge. So your challenge was actually for April, and we were meant to be having this session right at the end of March, so we would have then looked at your bookings into April. Here we are, 2/3 of the way through April, and we need to just kind of back up our memories a little bit. So did you remember this? You were putting in your diary for April how many bookings you would like, so you were choosing how many you would like for each month, and then you were going to fill them. So I wonder if in chat you could let us know how many you still need to fill in April, whether you can remember that this was even a challenge.
I think she also said to choose 5 people and why they would benefit from joining.
Yeah, why they would benefit from hosting. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so Holly's being honest, lots of spaces. But Holly, specifically, how many? Because I think everybody, as we've gone along, we've said it's up to you how many you want to host during the month. So that might be 1 self-host and 1 host hosting for his or her friends. So can we do May instead? Well, the challenge was from the middle of March. So yes, you can do May. Wait until the end, Hazel. You've stolen my thunder already.
But that shows that she's at least filled April. So that's good, Hazel.
That's very good. I'm being really cynical. What have you filled at the end of April with? Is your diary full of bookings? That's what I need to know. So you can let yourself know how many you've still got to do. Ideally 2. Yeah. So if you're thinking about, that's all right, Hazel, I'll let you off. So let me move on to the next question. Now, I'm told by quite a few people they would like to get together and do things face to face. So even team are saying they want to get back face to face and doing things. But actually, when I try and book those things, we're not quite getting together as much as we thought we would. So again, in chat, if you were going to host something, a showcase with me, so if I was your consultant, you were my host, would you rather do that in person, if I live down the road, or on Zoom? Yeah, then, and what we're doing tonight, Holly, will help with those cancellations, I think. There's no right or wrong, there's absolutely no right or wrong, but what I'm interested in is kind of the statistics of how many people, if I ask 10 people, how many of them are likely to say in person, how many are likely to say they want to do something online? Yeah,
I'd say in person.
Yeah, in person. Yeah, cool. So I'll self-host, and Jane's coming to my party at the moment because I do live down the road. Yes, so yes, your group of friends. And this, I think, also translates to how do you feel as a consultant? So it could be that you only want to offer face-to-face because you're so desperate to get back with people, or you may still want to be virtual. And of course, geography ties into that as well. But I just want you to kind of think about all the different options that we can offer. So it could be that your host wants to be in her garden with her friends, but actually her 2 cousins who are 3 counties away want to Zoom in. So that could be an option as well. make sure whatever you're offering, you're comfortable with. And if you're comfortable to do either or, then also make sure you're offering out both to your hosts. It just means that we're going to get back into that in person. Sian and I were chatting when we were talking about the training and what content we were going to include. And what we realized was many people in our teams, and maybe some of you online actually, have joined in the last 2 years. And what Sian and I remember as doing face-to-face parties was just like old hat to us back then. For many people, that's actually going to be a new thing that we've never done. So we will do some training at some point soon to make sure that we do that training with you as well. So just keep your options open, I guess. So
can I just pick up on something, Xenia? On that. I think one of the things that's happened in lockdown is that we've been able to bunch customers together because we were all on Zoom. It didn't matter if, like, Jane and Xenia lived literally down the road from each other. We were all on Zoom because we were in lockdowns and we were all being careful. But I wonder, to pick up on Caroline's point about for self-hosted events, she said in the chat she was offering only Zooms because that could include everybody who was, you know, it's more inclusive as a concept. However, I think one of the things we need to do coming out of lockdowns is separate our customers again into local and further away customers, because then your locals might want to come to something that you're hosting at your own house, even though it's self-hosted, Caroline, and you won't be the only one. But your further away ones don't want to hear that invitation because they won't be able to make it because it's too far. And going back to the good old days, like Xenia was just talking about there, I found that I would be aware of clusters of customers who were in a similar place. So I might go and self-host at one of their houses and just invite other customers from that area and just let them have the host reward. So that was kind of like being a semi-host, really, because I'd go to the area, but I was actually providing the guests as well. And sometimes I'd do that in coffee shops. Well, all of that is new territory, isn't it, after the last 2 years?
Yeah.
And interestingly, on the Coffee and Chat on Wednesday, we were talking about the price of petrol and doing personal deliveries and the investment in time of spending a few minutes with somebody on their doorstep or having a cup of tea with that person. It's because I just read Hazel's writing a semi-host, so tea and host got mixed together into toast. Yeah, so that time invested often really develops the relationship and keeps that customer close. But actually, if you don't want to travel round, you might park yourself in a coffee shop and say, right, well, I'm going to be there for the morning, come and pick up your bag. So it becomes a kind of social, almost semi-party. You could say, oh, I've got to show you the stuff, semi-showcase. So it's thinking separately, your distant and your close customers. And in my case, Caroline, what that's looked like is separating out my WhatsApp broadcast lists into local customers and far away customers was what I called mine. I didn't want to call them remote, far away customers. And so actually you can just slightly change the messaging and not annoy the ones who are too far away to come to your house when you've got things like Christmas open house, which will be able to hopefully open up again this year.
It's April, Sian, you've said
sorry,
the word.
Did I just use the C word? Sorry.
Just stop right there. Hazel's already going, whoa, she can't cope with things. Apparently your coffee and chat was this morning, even though it feels like longer ago than that.
Oh, yes, it was. It's only Wednesday. Yes, goodness. Welcome to my life.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's lots and lots of things that we need to say out loud for all of us to remember all the different options. And Sian, you're absolutely right. Having broadcast lists of people, please don't put something else on my list to do. I just was like, no. I was a bit like Hazel going, whoa, no, I don't.
Well, it doesn't actually take too long to separate them. But what I found was, instead of feeling slightly apologetic every time I sent a message, because it was just going to not hit the bar for some people, it felt more personal. So yeah, it is another job on your list, but it's time well invested, I think.
All right, thank you for that. Okay, let's move along. So now, this is a little bit of a recap from what we did last time, but just really before we go into host coaching, I thought it's just important to think about where we find our hosts. So obviously you are a host yourself, and this image just made me laugh. If anybody has their hosts or customers on post-it notes on their wall, I want to see it, because I just thought I sort of liked it, even though post-it notes dry up and fall off, but I just kind of like that chaoticness of it. So where where you have your hosts. Now, some people may or may not know that they've even got lists of hosts and customers, but actually they are all on your website. So once you log in and look under my customers and my hosts, then you do have lists there. So even if you think that your admin's not great and that you don't have a list and you think that's another job, well, actually they are there and you can work through them. So however you have your contacts listed, whether that's a spreadsheet, if you use index cards, if you've got orders in Polly Pockets, if you've got a frank list, a book, your phone, anywhere else that that you might keep them. Sorry, I'm just being distracted by chat. Wherever you keep your hosts, that's where you need to go, and those are the people that you need to be chatting to. So that's just a little recap from last time, because actually if you don't have a host, then actually going on to the next bit of host coaching seems a little irrelevant. So I thought we'd do a little recap. So let's go on to hosts. So what do you think when I say host? What do you think about that person? So 3 questions really, I suppose. What do you think about hosts, where they're at? What is your goal for the showcase? And what do you think your host might be expecting from the showcase? Because all of those things actually tie into when we have a conversation with the host. So, yep, free shopping, absolutely. Yeah, they want freebies and a lovely time, absolutely. You want the leads. So Charlotte saying, yeah, someone to bring a group together. You want the free gifts. Jane saying, you want to get the best for the host, free shopping, etc. Yeah, definitely. Sharon said, the contact that pulls people together. Yeah, without your host, she is bringing all her contacts together for you to be able to present to them. So Holly wants more customers and to connect to and commission. Yeah. Introducing them to products, definitely. The goal, absolutely, to meet new customers. Host sparkles, yeah, cool. So when I think about a host, I think of a VIP, because actually I need to treat that host as the most important person, because she is, because all of the things that you're saying, she's bringing people together, she's giving us the opportunity to present products to those people, to talk about all of our passions about Neil Shard remedies. And if we don't put her front and center, actually the rest of it doesn't really matter. And when I think about my goal for a showcase, I want to get the most out of this for the host, because just as a happy accident, when she gets the most out of this with free shopping and half price shopping, I've actually sold quite a lot, and then my commission is higher. But I genuinely always put the host ahead of me, because actually this is about building the energy, building the excitement, doing the giving, being generous to make sure that your host has a great time, her friends have a great time, because that will give you the onward business. It will inspire people to want to work with you, and it will make people want to rebook with you for their own events in the future. Now, what your host is expecting, who knows? Because actually that's part of host coaching, is to connect with your host to find out what she's really interested in. So let's go on. Oh, fun, definitely, Caroline. That's all I need. Sorry, I'm clicking and nothing's happened. Right. So the benefits of host coaching. So I've realized actually in the last 2 years that I've got to say, let me just stop sharing a sec. For those who are on screen, can we do a hands up? For people who've been doing online showcases and parties, have you been doing host coaching before them? Hands up if you have. Good. I congratulate all of you that have remembered to do it, because for me, I totally forgot it was a thing.
It was very different to an in-person coaching, though.
Yeah, but you remember to do it, which is more than I did. Is anyone else writing this out?
I was muted and I said I tried to. I agree with Hazel. It was very different to do and quite hard to do. But yes, usually I didn't always remember, but when I did, you know, I gave it a go. Yeah, absolutely. Great. So yeah, as I say, congratulations to all of you that have done much better than I did.
I think, Xenia, I think also it's not about whether you did or didn't, it's the quality of that training, of that time together, because I think host coaching in itself is a bit of a funny title, because you are coaching, but you're also, like you said on the screen, fact-finding mission. And I think mine got reduced to, this is how Zoom's going to work, and this is how they'll get the link, and you know, this is how they'll order, which is only such a small part of it. It's what you've just said is really light on moment. If you make it all about her, then from the very first conversation, yeah, it's about connecting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think what I did was, in my head, I downloaded some information to her. Yeah. Like, this is the link, this is what we're going to do, this is how I'm going to send things. It was actually more centered on me. Funny that. So it's not about me, as Sian would tell you. It's about the other person always. So when you're doing host coaching, it's as much about asking questions and finding information and finding out what your host would like to do. So when you're going, you know, so we've got two things going on, and I'm going to try and do examples of online as well as in person. But I think for lots of us, the in person we're getting back to again. So when we go in person, some of the fact finding is actually, where is the house? If you're going, I mean, this time of year, it's going to be light when you're going, I expect. So it's not quite so bad as winter. But actually, that was all of those things that if you used to go do host coaching, then you would know where to go back to for actually doing the party. You'd know where to park. All those little details that actually help ease the evening and make you more relaxed for when you arrive. So ask her what she's expecting. Ask her what she's looking forward to, what she would like out of the evening, because it could be that she's just excited about sharing messages about sustainability, or some of our provenance stories that she's really inspired by. So then you need to make sure that you talk about some of those, or get her to share her favourite ones. If she's all about the free shopping, then you need to talk to her about making sure that she's, you know, engaging with you to talk about products that she loves, or if you're passing something around, or if she's got a favourite, to make sure that she's working in partnership with you. So asking, as usual, you know, questions are the answers. So asking some questions to find out what you need for the actual showcase evening. So if it's online, obviously it's going to be a slightly different chat, but you still need to find out these things. And I think that when you're talking to the host, by the way, don't ever tell the host that you're doing host coaching. It's not something that they need to think that you're actually coaching them into having, you know, making the evening work well. You know, a coffee and a chat, whether that be in person or online, because it could be if she's geographically, you know, at a distance, or you want to meet face to face, even to do the host coaching, then make sure that you're still doing all of these things when you're online as well. So let's have a look. So when you talk to your host, when you find out what she wants, you're also developing that rapport and that relationship between the two of you. And as lots of you said, it's making that connection, and it's the connection with the host is the first thing you need to do, because if she's excited and looking forward to the evening or day, whatever it is, the showcase is much more likely to go ahead. And I think it was Holly said, you know, if you've made some bookings, but actually they didn't go ahead. And this used to happen quite a lot with face-to-face parties in the past. And when it was either mine, or I was chatting to a consultant who maybe was getting frustrated at things being cancelled or postponed, it's like, actually, have we done the host coaching really well? Because if you make that connection, it's much more likely to go ahead. Your host will then be excited when she's talking to her friends who are coming, and actually, naturally, your sales will increase as well. Sian, any other thoughts about the benefits of host coaching?
no, I think that's it at this stage. I think you're going to go into more in the detail that will bring out more benefits.
Yeah. So I thought I'd call this Host Coaching 101 because it feels like Sian and I have been doing this for a long, long, long time. Sian, I think, probably taught me this in the first place. So I'm going back a long time for when I used to go to Sian's in-person trainings, which was all company training as well. So as I say, host coaching is in person or on Zoom, but have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee with you, so you feel like you know, sitting having a chat with someone with a coffee. I think that's an easier vibe than particularly if you're online and chatting with someone. I think this can, as I say, just be a bit of a brain dump rather than a conversation. So if you're doing this online, you'll need to send these things to the person beforehand. So they get a pack in the post, or you pop it through their door, whatever you need to do. So they've got things there and then you can talk them through. If you're in person, then obviously take this with you and then you can talk through the items. Let me just grab the items. Well, some of these things are going to be a bit of a blast from the past. So I've got down here things like card invitations. So I don't know, some people have been using these in event packs, showcase packs that we've been sending out, but these we've often used in the past for hosts to be able to give these almost like a confirmation rather than an invitation, but just put the date on. Plus we've got our online evites as well, so different ways for the host to be able to invite her friends. I again have forgotten to do this for the last 2 years, but we always took a couple of little sample pots with samples of a couple of the host gifts. So actually the host could try 2 or 3 of these and then decide which of the host gifts they would like. So then they get a chance to use them beforehand. Then they can talk about why they like them. And this is one of your inspirations for other guests at the party to want to have a future booking with you. Because if the host really loves these products, the way that other guests at the party can get them, obviously, is to book with you and host their own. So it's important to try and get, and these might be some things maybe in a sample sachet, but actually I think the little sample pots are often the best way to do that. So a wish list, which I think everybody's pretty familiar with, to make sure that she can write down all the products that she would like from her free and half price shopping. And this gives you an opportunity to be able to talk to her about where the levels of free and half price shopping are. So she's got an idea about engaging with you in conversation at showcase to talk about products. Now this one made me laugh, the host planner. Well, again, I haven't used one of these for a while because just always they're such a good tool. And maybe there's people who've had these in their starter packs, but actually don't know what to do with them. And these are now, if you haven't got any, these are now in download, so they're printable. But in here, you can actually write in the date and the time that you're going to be going. So have a chat with her about what time she'd like it to start. We would generally arrive in person half an hour before to set up, and that can all go on this leaflet as well. I always also ask her about who she's going to invite, and it could be that she just draws a bit of a blank and maybe needs some encouragement about thinking about different areas of her life and who she wants to invite. And on the back of the host planner are sections for who to invite. So this could be a conversation about her hobbies, whether she's got, I'm saying she all the time, obviously he, she, whether she's got family, neighbours, friends, and she can just start to write down a few of the people that you've kind of prompted her to think, oh yeah, I could invite that person and that person. So again, this is a really good tool, really well thought through, and one that I'm going to resurrect. Order forms, I would generally give her 3, 4, 5 order forms. So if anybody can't come to the showcase, if they do want to order, then she can also take pre-orders to make sure, and again, talk about the free and half price shopping, and all of those orders count towards the sales for the evening. All of those things that are completely obvious to us, but actually your host won't know. And then seasonal guides, again, depending on, you know, part of this could be to do with postage levels and things as well, but a few seasonal guides, so she can give these out to people who are coming, who don't really know anything about Neal's Yard remedies and could browse before the evening, and they'll get to know us a little bit better and give them an idea about what we're going to be talking about. And a tea bag to either have that cup of tea with you when you're there, or for her to have a cup of tea while she's looking through your website, looking through the pack afterwards. Sian, I wrote this list thinking, I went back through all sorts of old training actually thinking, what did I used to send?
Yeah, no, there isn't anything to send, but anything else to send, but are you going to expand on some of those and how you would use them to get rebookings, or is that a good thing to do now?
Let's do it now.
Okay, so I had a couple of thoughts I was scribbling as you were chatting. I think giving the host the host gift samples to try beforehand, that is, with rebookings, there's not a magic formula that means you just get more bookings from bookings. There are lots of little things that you can do that will nudge rebookings into the right direction, and the host gifts are one of those things, because actually if you get the host saying, oh, Xenia gave me a sample of that shower gel and it was amazing, I just couldn't believe how invigorating it was and it left my skin feeling so soft, what you've got is a testimonial of somebody who's not Xenia as the consultant. So Xenia's kind of supposed to say that stuff about her product. If you can get testimonial from somebody who's an influencer, the host is the best person to do that. So what she's doing is recommending the host free gifts to her guests. That's a lot more powerful than you passing around the host gifts and just saying, so which one will you choose when you're a host? It kind of makes people want them a bit more. The other thing that I think makes a big difference is the list of people. And Xenia said, you know, maybe that she gets stuck. With host coaching, I always say, have you already made the list of people that you're going to invite? Or would that be a good thing for us to do together? 9 times out of 10, they haven't done it. Now, if that list rolls off her tongue really easily, actually, if you think about the categories that Xenia mentioned on the back of that host planner, it's the same basic categories as a Frank list. You're getting her to think about people she knows through the kids, her neighbours, who her key friends are. I would just encourage that list to roll for as many people as she wants to put down, because if, say, for instance, she's got 7 seats around her table, 6 guests plus her, but she's got a list of 15 people, that is a rebooking waiting to germinate, because it's easier to say to her, what are we going to do with those other 7, 8 people on your list who couldn't come tonight? Because you've already made the list. And it's a stronger thing than saying to her, so would you like to host another one then with a different group of people? Because she's got to start all over again. If she struggles, Xenia's absolutely right. It's your chance to expand the list. But what you can also talk to her about in getting to know, you know, tell me a bit about the people that you've written down, has to come after she's downloaded as many names as possible. So resist the temptation to ask her about the guests until she's finished writing the names down, because the first goal is to get as many as possible on that piece of paper, regardless of how many seats there are. Then you can say, so out of this lot, who are you thinking inviting? Tell me a bit about them, because that is not just a rebooking list then, it's potential other hosts. Because she will start to give you clues like, well, I want my friend Michaela to come because she buys Neal's Yard remedies from the local shop. Oh, hello. She might be interested in some free and half price stuff, or actually trying some of the products. And my friend Janet should be there because she's really into sustainability. Oh, okay. So you start getting clues for people. You're going to keep all those voices inside your head. Don't say, oh, good, well, maybe she'd like to host one herself then. Don't jump in. Just as Xenia said, receive as much, if not more, information than you're giving. So that list of names is an absolute goldmine to clues. So when Michaela walks in on the evening, I say, oh, hi, Michaela, nice to meet you. What did Xenia tell you, you know, that well, sorry, I've mixed the host now. What have you been told about tonight? You know, what are you expecting? I'm not saying, oh, would you like to be a host, Michaela? I just want her to tell me what she knows about the brand. I know already that she already buys the stuff from the shop, but she doesn't need to know that. let her tell me, oh, I love Neil Shard. Oh, do you? What do you use then? And so that conversation, you can develop the clues that started way back when the person made the list. My favourite ever story of this was a lady who came into a party 3/4 of the way through. We'd done all the demonstration. People were flicking through the catalogues in the old days, placing their orders. And this girl walked into the room and she said, oh, I said, how do you want to do this? Do you want to look at some of the products? Or, no, I've got a few things I want to buy, but what I'd quite like to do is host my own. And I had a new consultant with me and she said, how did you do that? The woman's only been in the room 2 minutes and you've got a booking. It was totally about the conversation I had with the host about who she was going to invite. And so I'd said to her at the end of the chat, well, you know, if that lady, if you think she might like to, she basically, the clue she gave me was she knows loads of people and she loves the product. I said, well, maybe she'll want to host it herself. And she'd gone away and asked her. So she'd sown the seed for me. That list, take the time to do that list. It is worth its weight in gold. What else did I write down? Oh yes, seasonal guides and the order forms could also go to people who can't make it but would quite like to place an order. Especially if your host is into free and half price shopping, because you want to maximize orders towards her showcase, even if they're not actually in the room. So there you go. That was my few thoughts.
Thank you. Yeah, that's perfect. So a few other things I'd written down as to not to do necessarily with the tools, but other information that you want to find out as well. So it's what has always stuck with me. It's something that I have to say Sian used to say in this kind of training about when you're at the person's house, that you're actually casing the joint. Because what you're looking for is to find out maybe which room that you'll be using. So is that going to be round a table? Is it going to be in the lounge? Where's it going to be? So you've got an idea about where you're going to set up a little display, whether she's got a dining chair for you to do a mini facial on her, those sorts of practical things, so that you know in your head what you're going to do when you get there, which again takes away some of the stress of the evening of arriving, then going into a room you've never seen before and going, oh heck, there's no table here, now what do I do? You know, you might use the mantelpiece. You know, there's the old story about using an ironing board with a cloth over it as a display table because that's all somebody had. But if you know that ahead of time, then you're prepared for it.
That's up there with the host planners, isn't it? Many of us have never used an ironing board now, and now we can.
Yeah. And you know what, ironing boards are perfect because you can put them at any height. So they're actually better than a table. And you won't have to clear away her ornaments and books and things first. So, you know. And
all the lit Yankee candles, because she's already lit them all and made the room smell nice, which is a nightmare if you want to plug a diffuser in. So have that conversation whilst you're having a cup of tea. It's easier.
I refrain from doing that, but I can't help it. Sorry. Apologies to other candle brands. Yeah, I noticed a comment. I think it was Caroline said something about refreshments. So yeah, just have a quick chat about what she was thinking about refreshments. And I would always say, if everyone, you know, offer everybody a drink when they get there, but actually if we could leave food until after everybody's tried products, that would be helpful, because salted peanuts and putting, you know, holding product and then massaging things in the back of your hand whilst you've got salt isn't really ideal. So again, you're just painting a picture for her so she understands, because otherwise she would think being a good host is offering people, you know, snacks, and then she'll cover her table in snacks rather than you being able to use it for product. So just have those conversations, and it's about, as I say, fact finding and, you know, communicating. Another question that is now going to arise, and again, this is partly for you to decide, but also chat to the host about how we give her guests product. Are we going to pass a jar around with a spatula like we always did? Are you going to hold that jar with the spatula and plonk it onto people's hands? Or are people going to have their own little packs, sachets and samples to use on themselves that no one else has touched? So those are thoughts that, you know, we just need to go through. Again, another question to ask is, has she ever thought about doing what you do? Because that could also bring into conversation about whether it's something, you know, a business she would like to get involved with. Now, you don't have to get into the nitty gritty of doing a like sparkle conversation at that point, because you're there to plan for her showcase and make the most of it for her. But I always drop that conversation in, or just the question about, you know, you love the product so much. Have you ever thought about doing what I do? And then they'll come out with, you know, I couldn't do that, blah, 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 because, and it's like, why couldn't you do what I do? And then you'll find out, you know, those reasons. And then you might start to have that conversation, but that could well be for another day, maybe when you do the delivery of product back to her. Also, when you're going through that list that Sian was talking about, at this moment, I don't think it's inappropriate to say, you know, anybody in, you know, for people coming, is anyone else looking for some extra income at the moment? Because, you know, things are tight for lots of people, because right now, so many people are looking for that extra side hustle, extra income, whatever it might be. Then this could be a good opportunity again to find that out beforehand and make sure that you're asking those open questions when they come to the showcase. Make sure that you're enthusiastic, that you're looking forward to her event. Again, that building the rapport, making sure that it's going to happen. And so much of that happens when you're in their house or talking to them online beforehand, to make sure that they're looking forward to seeing you as well. Then they'll move that enthusiasm on from your conversation to their friends. Oh yeah, it's really nice, and seeing he's going to do this, and da da da. It just gets that momentum going.
I always think if you doubt the power of that, imagine doing the opposite. It's so ludicrous, isn't it, to imagine being a bit kind of, well, to be honest, I'm a bit dreading it. You just never would, and because it would absolutely suck the energy out. The same is true when you invest the positives.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Okay, I think that's everything on my list. It was like a little trip down memory lane writing this training.
One thing to add, I remember 20 years ago hearing the statistic in direct selling that 1 in 3 hosts will join at some point, and it never worked. It never worked for me. It was totally a statistic until I ended the sentence with, if you ask them. Because funnily enough, they don't turn into recruits magically. Most of them, when you ask the question that Xenia's just suggested, have you thought about doing what I do? Most of them will say, no, I couldn't possibly, or some version of that. But deliciously, like Neil's Yard Remedies, what you're doing is sowing the seed. And quite often, when you turn up to set up for their showcase, they'll say, you know what you were saying about, and it will just have germinated something, and they'll, you know, they might decide, no, it's not the thing. And then when the thing has been a great success and they've had a lovely evening, you might just check in and say, are you still sure that at the moment this isn't what you want to do? Because let's face it, you don't care. It doesn't matter, because if you're going to rebook them as a host or they join as a team, it's a team member, it's a win-win situation. The key thing is that it's the right shaped space for her in her involvement with MYRO. Some people will go on and host 2 or 3 times, and at the point where the third lot of friends are dishing out their cards in payment to you, they might have got over whatever was the struggle at the beginning. But if you've opened up that conversation at the beginning, it's much more likely to convert them. About 1 in 3, isn't that amazing? Which is why it's tricky to recruit, actually, so consistently people who are doing showcases if you're not doing showcases yourself, because it absolutely is a model that they can pick up and run with, and they've seen you do it because they already hosted.
Yeah, they don't need to paint the picture after that. They actually know what's going on. So yeah, perfect.
Oh, I love that, Holly. It's opened up some people in Holly's head.
Uh-oh. She's on her phone. I can feel her messaging them right now.
No, don't do it now. Stay engaged with the training.
This is Holly we're talking about.
That's why I'm saying it. Well done, Holly.
Okay, so this probably should have been up beforehand. So yeah, who's going to be invited? Which room you'll be using? Samples or jars? Any friends coming who love to host parties, and absolutely about her wish list as well. So just as we've been talking about. All right. Well, there we go. So let's have a think about reasons to book the showcase. Now, maybe this should have come beforehand. I wanted to get into host coaching, but reasons to book. So this can be, think about this once you're doing the showcase. So things that you need to drop into your presentation. So there's many reasons why people will book, but these are my kind of top 5. So a social event, which I think at the moment we're just like, yay, let's do something together. Obviously booking something on the evening of the party. So they're, sorry, too much excited about social events. Getting a yes please gift for booking something with you, which I'll come on to in just a second. Obviously host gifts, which the host gets at the showcase. Loyalty cards, again, something that some people are doing really well, and maybe for some of us it's a place that we need to revisit. And of course, free and half price shopping. And I go back to a story from quite a long time ago, a consultant in the team, really good at selling, really engaged with the brand, very out there, chatty. And she just said to me, I cannot get anybody to book. So they're just not interested in hosting. I'm just going to stop sharing so I can see you. And I said to her, okay, well, have the conversation with me as if you wanted me to host. So she said, so I tell them that, you know, it'll be a nice evening and I'll give them a mini facial and they can try products and it's lovely to be with their friends. And I'm like, yeah, and? So she rattled off a few other little platitudes and eventually I was like, free and half price shopping? And then the penny dropped because it was so obvious to her that that's what you would get when you hosted, that she forgot to tell people. And as soon as she started talking about the big benefits of why most people will host, suddenly she got bookings coming in. So if somebody's struggling, just break it down into what are the very basic things that we need to be able to share with a potential host. And just as just to be able to show you on screen, so these are loyalty cards that you can buy on NYR Shop. So if you're not familiar with them, these are for hosting and these are for customer orders. So different types of loyalty cards. And then my little yes please gifts. I had a moment last night deciding I was going to pimp some of my yes please gifts. So I'm not suggesting you spend hours wrapping things, but putting a little cleanser with a cotton wool pad, popping them in a little bag. I mean, we used to play around with all sorts of things. This one, I think, is going to be the one that everybody wants because it's the biggest. You don't know what's in there, do you? But actually, we're all so shallow that we just want the biggest thing because we think it'll be the best.
Although and then I do want that deck chair, actually. Does the deck chair come with the pot?
If you really wanted it, if you're going to book, you can have the deck chair as well. That's how nice I am. And then I just did one which was a little mini facial of sample packs in a little bag as well. But just this, again, if you're when you're doing the party, this is about making sure that you're encouraging people by talking about what does a yes please gift mean? Oh, these little things over here, what are these little things? Oh yeah, okay, now I'll tell you about those. You can have one of these and I want everyone in this room to get one if you want to do this sort of thing with your friends, maybe at your house. So it's, again, just dropping in those, not that subtle, but it's not about, if you want one of those, then you have to book a party with me. It's not that direct. It's just that kind of engaging people in how they could get one, what they need to do. And at the end, asking everybody if they would like to take one of these home. And I do that individually. And when you're doing in-person showcases, you can have those individual conversations. Doesn't work quite so well on Zoom because you can't go, right, you in the top left, right, I'm going to ask you, do you want one of these? It doesn't. Even I don't do that. But when you're doing it in person, there's just a very different vibe about it. Okay. So I think, just a good reminder of why people would want to book, because as I say, to us, it's sometimes incredibly obvious.
I think that's one of the things that really got lost in online events, because it's difficult to pass around a box or a trug or a basket of freebies for those that want to book. And I love that phrase, to do something like this with some of your friends is so informal, isn't it? It doesn't pin anyone down to what that's going to look like, something like this. But I think it is, as you say, quite degrading what we will do for a free something, and we haven't been able to do that on Zoom.
Right. And you know what, one of my biggest silly things, but it's that how do I present that on Zoom? I've realized I had to present it on something flat for people to be able to see it. Whereas when you're passing it around, it was always in a basket or something that you could dive into. And actually people can have a rummage, but you can't do that on Zoom. So again, that being there in person, you can go like, oh, I want that one, or I want a shower gel, or whatever it might be. So there's there's pluses and minuses for all these things, but I think, yeah, that in person and the excitement of that in a room, you don't get the same when people are in their own houses.
There's peer influence as well, because if you pass that to somebody who you think is a fairly good bet for a booking, they're going to pass it on to the person next to them having taken one, and people don't like leaving them if the person before them took one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely that feeling of, oh, well, she's had one, then I want one. But also, once you're in a room with people and you have those one-to-one conversations about, would you like to do this with some of your friends, then you can have, then it might be a maybe, or I'll think about it, or when the building work's finished, or those conversations that you can then make a note of. It might have been a not right at this moment. It might be a, I'm going to follow that up in the future. All those conversations. Okie dokie, let's move on again. Okay, so some of these we're overlapping, which is absolutely fine, just chatting through things. So making sure that we're warming people up when so as a showcase, obviously you've booked the original host, but from the people who are at that showcase, we're really looking for 2 onward bookings. So you need to make sure that you're dropping into conversation few of the things that Sian and I have been talking about already. So that could be referring to the Yes Please gifts. It can be the host talking about the host gifts that she's chosen because all she's used them, and that beauty sleep shower gel or whatever was just divine and you should all have one. And you do get hosts who will go, you should do this, it's brilliant. So they will encourage their friends to host as well. But making sure you pass round the host gifts so people can smell them themselves. So if it, whatever she's chosen, pass it round, because if I just said, oh, you get one of these, that means absolutely nothing. Whether you know the products or not, if you don't spray or smell what it is, you don't get that engagement. And we know that people love our product when they try it. So you've got to get the smell out of the bottle at least. So we've done Yes Please gifts. Now themes, this is always an interesting conversation. We've got our seasonal guide, so you've got an idea of themes that you might want to offer between now and August. So we've got facial ones to do, we've got body ones, we've got aromatherapy in there, but actually it's also up to you which ones you choose. It doesn't have to be prescriptive about what's in the seasonal guide. So if I think you, Sian, with your team, you were having a conversation recently. In fact, Lorraine did some training for you on foot care, because actually, I think, Sian, you were talking to someone, or people were talking about they wanted foot products because they're getting their feet out and they think, oh my goodness, they've been in boots all winter. Now, we don't have a foot care showcase, flip-flop feet, whatever we're going to call it, in the seasonal guide. But that doesn't mean you can't run what's topical and what people would like. So make sure that you're, if you like that structure of the seasonal guide, use it, go for it. If you like to freestyle a little bit, please feel free to do that as well. You can choose. And then think about, of your 2 bookings that we're looking for from this particular showcase, then you think about who you're going to ask. So that's everybody. I have this real thing about, if you say, oh, I've got these lovely gifts here, and for everyone that books something like this, I'd love you all to go home with one of them, and then I don't ask everyone, I just think that's really rude, because then the person or the people that you don't ask are thinking, oh, why didn't she ask me? Why doesn't she like me? Why doesn't she want to come to my house? Does she think I'm dirty? Does she think this? Does she think that? So actually, when you treat everyone the same, you're being polite to everybody, you're giving everybody that opportunity. So I think you've got to make sure you ask, and the other person to ask is the host about rebooking, because actually it's a very easy rebook, and you and the host can decide how often that rebooking is. So that might be seasonally, might be with each seasonal guide that comes out. It might be that Sean says she's got a whole list of people and she could do one next week or in 3 weeks' time. So you've got onward bookings with the host as well, and that should always be something that you're looking for. You might want to offer the host a theme around her favourite product. So if she loves Wild Rose Beauty Balm, why not introduce her to the rest of the Wild Rose range? That kind of thing. So that's where you can be really freestyling. If you're new, then don't think you have to buy lots and lots of products to offer a theme. The theme is in your starter kit. So it is a facial. It's a, you know, cleanse, tone, moisturize, or include an eye gel or a treatment. You can do things with 5 products, absolutely fine. And this isn't about you having to invest more and more. The whole point of our starter kit is that there's all the products in there you need to do for a show, you need to use for a showcase. You might decide that you want to do a Zoom based on sample sachets because they're flat and they're easy to put in the post. Do that, it's completely fine. So I'm going to move on slides.
I think this is where our bank of resources is so helpful, because you can just book whatever theme they decide they want to have and worry about it afterwards. Because there's going to be some training somewhere, or we just, you know, you put it out there to the team and say, right, this is the theme she wants. Which products do you reckon I should do? You're gonna have impromptu input. It's easy to put together. Just book it and we'll sort it out. Yeah,
Always. Yeah, I haven't been given a topic yet that we can't find, you know, a way of doing that. So if you, I'm just trying to think back through a party process of all the things that we talk about. So somebody giving everybody a wish list at the event is also a really good way of seeing how many products they've written down, because most people, particularly at the moment, don't have a limitless budget. So they might pick 2 or 3 things off their wish list. So if you can visually see what they've written down on their wish list, so when we're doing, particularly with, I mean, I do it with online parties as well. I'll put a wish list in the box, but definitely with face-to-face, everybody always gets a wish list, because then they can just scribble down all the things they really like. But it's a perfect way of looking at how many products they would really, really like. And then you can have the conversation about, well, on that list, if you want to choose, you know, some of them to order this evening, actually, if you wanted to host something like this, we can work towards some of those being free or half price for you. Ooh, how do I do that? Kind of conversation goes on. So there's lots of ways of pulling out little threads without feeling like you're doing a hard sell, because you're always putting that person, the host on the evening, you're always putting front and center, but actually each individual person you're talking to, you're thinking, actually, if you're my next host, then they need to be front and center as well. So just treat them accordingly. What else have I written down on my trip down memory lane? That's okay. So the next slide that I just popped up was actually, depending on how many bookings that you would like for May now, then you'll still need to go back to your customer list, your host list, to make sure that you're talking to people, having these conversations with some of these things in mind, to have maybe slightly tweaked conversations with why somebody might like to book. All those reasons behind. I know you love the product. I know you're always looking for the next thing. Well, actually, you could have some of them free, and this is how you could do it. Because I think we've probably lost that art.
Can you put the slide back up, Xenia?
Sorry, yeah.
Thanks.
So yeah, I've just gone back to that. How do you find a host? So again, you know, I don't think you can go over this too many times, because that host could be anybody. But actually, think back to all of those customers that you've had on Zoom in the last up to 2 years, depending on how long you've been with the company, and who didn't book Zooms. Maybe those people would be more comfortable having a face-to-face. Maybe they don't, you know, they don't mind coming to your self-host or going to someone else's, but actually they could be the people who are desperate for you to come out of hiding and say to them, do you know what, I'm offering face-to-face now. And then keep going, you know, just keep going back. And as Sean said, you know, breaking down your broadcast list into people who are local. And I like Jane's little comment. Jane said that she called them local and less local.
Yeah, I like that.
Wherever that boundary might be in your head as to what is less local, but just make sure that you're offering the different options. Okay. So if it's a yes, when it's a yes, once you've done your happy dance, then you go through the agreeing a date, 2 days, 2 months, 2 days, two dates. Talk to them about what's going to happen next. Now, if you're doing this at a party, I would say you need to have this conversation with your future host. So if it's a guest at a party and she wants to book, do the yes, please gift, and then say, could we catch up tomorrow? And you might want to agree the date on the evening, but should we have a chat tomorrow about the theme and what we're going to do next? Because you don't want to detract too much from what's going on in the party and not keep your current host of that evening in the forefront of your mind. But if someone's agreed a date, then just say, well, if I give you a call tomorrow, this is what we need to do next. So we'll talk about which products you'd like me to bring, or if there's a particular theme you'd like me to do. Have a couple of suggestions of those themes up your sleeve when you talk to them, and then book in when you're going to do that person's host coaching. And so we go round full circle.
Can I just put a couple of words in there, Xenia?
Yeah, by all means.
I think that's really important. So when somebody's taken a yes, please gift, all you're saying to them is, awesome, please help yourself to one of these. And then, are you about tomorrow and we can put a date in? Yes, that'd be great. And you sort all that out. Right, well, what we'll do is we'll chat tomorrow and I'll tell you the other things that we're going to do. Then when you speak to them, you could say to them a couple of weeks before, how about I come over for a cup of coffee and we run through together who's going to come and how it's all going to work. You're not saying, oh, 2 weeks before I need to book my host coaching in with you. You're just basically booking another appointment with them 2 weeks before the party. What that also enables them to do is think, okay, great, I can leave it until she's coming. And so even if that date is a month or 6 weeks in advance, if it's that far ahead, they know they've got that 2 week marker beforehand when everything's going to get organised.
Yeah, and I think it's really important. It's like going to a meeting, isn't it, and having an agenda or having some idea about what's going to go on. It just gives people a little schedule as to, okay, they can relax, rather than every week thinking, oh, am I meant to be doing something? So yeah, gives them some parameters.
Yeah, and we want to keep it being a nice thing. So the more relaxed they are, the more likely they are to rebook it. If it was a nice process, it wasn't stressful.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, you never know. It's been known. Okay. So yeah, again, if it's a no or not now, it's making lots of noise. So I'm actually covering up my own slide now with all the chat and things. So it could be, as I say, you were chatting to a guest at the showcase that you're doing, and it could be like, yeah, I would like to do this, but we're having some building work done at the moment, or when the kids go back to school, or whatever the reason is. And I think, if that's a kind of no or just a not now, then make sure that you diarise it to follow up with that person. I tend to make notes on their order form. Only ever make polite notes, because our order forms do duplicate through. So don't ever write anything that she was wearing a horrid shirt or something like that. Just make sure that you it's all good things, and make sure that you do follow up when you say you're going to. That's again just about being polite, but it also means that you've got future people to ask. So you're going to go back to, where do you find the people who are going to host? They are often your previous customers as well. And then a little thought about, I left this in actually from a previous session, because it was when we were talking about recruitment, but I think it's exactly the same that we should talk about this evening. It's not everybody is going to want to host. We're not strong arming anybody into doing it. We want people who would like to and have the benefits, but actually, if that person wants to remain a customer and come to your self-hosts or come back to the Friends next showcase, then that is absolutely fine, because we need people in all of these categories. So if they just said, no, it's not for me, I hate doing that, I don't want people in my house, whatever it is, that's okay. Perfect. I'll keep in touch with you, as a customer. Yes, hosting does terrify some people. You're absolutely right, Hazel. And that's fine. We are all very different. Sorry, I'm going to go back one. The other thing to think about is how you're going to keep in contact with people just going to stop sharing for a moment so I can see you. Somewhere along the line I was going to talk about this and I've missed it, so I'm going to go back to it because I think it's really important and something that you know, Sian's talked about before as well. But making sure that we tell people if we're collecting their details, so at the end of a showcase we will have people's details if they've placed an order, but actually if there's people there who haven't placed an order, it's a great idea to ask them if they're happy for you to have their number and for you to follow up with them to let them know about more showcases that are going to happen in the future, potential sale days, those sorts of things. And for those who have ordered, that you'd like to follow up with them a week or so after they've got their products to make sure that they're happy and everything was in their order that they were expecting. And then you then get permission. I mean, some people say, no, I don't want you to have my number. That's it. You know, end of. I've met you this evening. It's been very nice, but goodbye. That's fine as well. But once you've asked permission and that person said, yes, I don't mind you keeping in touch with news about whatever, then you know when they're on your broadcast list, you can feel happy about contacting them. You haven't got that little person thinking, oh, you know, will they be all right about this? And if you are going to follow up with someone about maybe a sparkle conversation, again, just check in with when is a good time to do that for them. So I will generally say, you know, shall I give you a call tomorrow, the day after, morning, evening, what's good for you? Because then I know that I can put it in my diary and that I will ring at a time that we've agreed is probably going to be convenient. Of course, things change, but it stops me then second guessing all the time. Yeah, and just ways that you would like to stay in contact with them, whether that be, you know, emails, WhatsApp groups, whatever it might be. If you've got a Facebook VIP group, invite them to that. But I think having those conversations in person is actually much easier than doing it online with a group of people. I often do those afterwards in individual WhatsApp messages to a group, and that could be the host's friends. So I'm, you know, sort of straddling that boundary, but I do want to ask to be in touch. So I think that's a really important thing, just to round off how we're going to keep in contact.
I think one of the things that's good that's come out of the last couple of years is where the host sets up a WhatsApp group for the people who are attending the Zoom. And actually, I think that is easily carryable, overable into face-to-face showcases, because actually that space to be able to say, looking forward to seeing you, and I'm just getting all your samples ready, post a couple of photos, take a selfie with the host, we've had a cup of coffee and we're planning it together as your first post in the group. It all adds to the excitement. If you've agreed with the host that they're going to have their own boxes or their own bowls of samples, you could have pictures of that going in. The link for ordering can be reiterated. And of course, going back to what Zini was saying about contact details, everybody's phone number is in that group. So even if two people were chatting, filled out their order forms for themselves, it was a busy night and you didn't get to speak to them, that follow-up can be done the next day on WhatsApp. Some people are just autonomous with their ordering and they just crack on with it, and you don't have as much connection with them. I think what I would say is at the end of that WhatsApp group, at the end of that showcase, your aim is to disband that group and convert those that do want ongoing contact back into your customer systems. Because if you try and communicate with all the old WhatsApp groups from old showcases, that is impossible to maintain. And some people will still be in them who don't want contact with you, and it all just gets really messy. So it is just a group for the duration of that event. Even if they come together again another time, she just reforms the group.
Yeah. Because also, if you try to go back to all those WhatsApp groups, there'll be people in there who've been to 8 different self-hosts that you've done. They'll get 8 messages.
Yeah. It's
just, yeah. I've been through all of the ugliness in the last 2 years and tried to hone it down. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I think we are ready. Oh, no. I have to share it first, don't I? Okay. So, oh no, that's gone a bit blurry. It's one of my favourite quotes. So your action plan So checking your April dates, or if you want to the last 10 days of April, but we have still got a third of the month left. So if you've got dates that you want to fill, I reckon you can still do 1 or 2 dates at the end of the month. Because if you put the note out tonight or tomorrow to say to anybody, you know, I'm going to do a self-host, or is anybody up for some free shopping, that kind of thing, you've got time to send samples out or get things together at a short dated showcase. And actually at the moment, I think people will be, some people love doing short dated things. So they don't want to book 2 or 3 weeks hence. They don't care what you're doing at the end of May. But if you say to them, actually, can you come next Tuesday? A lot of people will be able to say yes or no. But, you know, different people work on different timescales. So you can still fill the end of April for the dates that you would like. Then you need to do the same again for May. And actually, if you're booking into May, you might as well take a peek at June as well. Make sure that you're getting dates in for people and different themes, whatever you'd like to do. Go back and ask your previous hosts and your previous Zoom customers. I think those are the ones that I know for my own personal business, those are the ones that are getting forgotten. Connections that I've made over the last 2 years that I need to get back in touch with to let them know what's going on now. And make sure you keep notes in whichever fashion you choose to, so that you can follow up with people. So whatever they say in those first conversations, you can come back to them. And as ever, she believed she could. So she did.
I've written down earlier something that I think goes really well with that quote. The hardest part mentally is getting the first ones in your diary. Because when you've got your first bookings, you've overcome that mind kind of hurdle that is this going to work? Once you've got a few hosts to work with, it's much easier then to be taking any opportunity to nudge rebookings and more bookings into your diary. You do get onto a bit of a roll. And you're right, Hazel, you know, I know there are some things that we're saying here that just make it sounds like it's straightforward. It's like anything that is an art. You have to practice the clunky bit first. You have to do the bit that is trying and not knowing whether you've remembered it all, or, oh, damn, I forgot to say that bit when we had our cup of coffee and a chat. All of that you have to do. And it isn't about aiming for perfection. It's about aiming for maximizing potential. So if you go into the coffee and chat with a host thinking, do you know what, this is 20 minutes, half an hour of my time, well invested, note the time frame. You do not want a host who thinks she's got to have 3.5 hours spare to have a cup of coffee with you because you can't wrap up the chat. 20 minutes to half an hour maximum to sit and to kind of chat through the party, showcase, whatever they want to call it, workshop. What does she want to call it? What's she inviting her friends to? All of that. If you throw yourself into that with the generosity that Xenia was expressing, you'll enjoy the actual event more. And because you're enjoying the event more, you'll want more of them in your diary. And so it will just alter the way you're speaking and you'll find your own words. It's just going from a standing start that's the hardest bit. But what's the other option? The other option, if we don't get them in our diaries, is we go on feeling slightly awkward or guilty about the fact they're not in our diaries and still thinking, I need to grab this. So we might as well just dive in. And I'm talking to myself as well. This is about converting out of the pandemic, just like we threw ourselves in and said, you know what, this is either all going to go to the wall or we're going to have to reinvent the business. And we did it and we nailed it. So we've proved we can do it. Those of us who were there then, all we've got to do is do that again in a different way and take those of you with us who've joined in the last couple of years.
And I think Hazel's just popped in that, yeah, bits of our businesses feel a bit neglected at the moment. And you're absolutely right, Hazel. And we're all in the same boat, that there are bits. I'm doing an event at the weekend, which I've had to really focus and remember what on earth I do at an event to make it successful. But that's been my focus. And it's like, and I keep wandering off doing things again. No, get back to it. make those business packs, make those signs, get your pen ready, you know, sort out your table, all of those. And it's just like, you just have to catch yourself. When I'm doing it, I have to catch myself and go, no, stop wandering off in that little yellow fashion of mine that makes me go, oh, shiny, shiny.
Well, and also we all got used to sitting in front of screens, but actually it really depleted us. And sitting with a group of people who are actually rubbing the products into themselves and smelling it, and you will look around the room and they just get it because the product does the talking. You can't get that on a screen. It doesn't happen the same way as when you've got a diffuser going in a room and they're rubbing calendula into their faces going, oh, that smells amazing. And they're just having that little moment of time out. And then it reminds you why being with people trying the product is so magical, and that makes you want to do more of it, and that will in itself bring the rebookings. It will. Man, I'm even inspiring myself as I'm talking.
Oh, I might go and send some messages.
Yeah, totally. This is meant to be a joy, not a job, isn't it? It's about bringing it back to that.
Definitely.
You can come to one I'm doing, Hazel, but you've got to book your own.
I tell you what, Sean, why don't you go to Hazel's?
Yeah, I've already done that. I got heckled by her granny.
I was meaning you could be a guest, not that you were helping.
I did her launch event, and guys, I know lots of you are recruiters. That's the magic with new joiners as well. You can't always because of the miles, but if you've got a new joiner who's local, go and do one for them. Let them see the magic happen while you're demonstrating how to use their toolkit, because that's what we did. I mean, how many years ago was that, Hazel? Your first one, right? I'll come and show you how to use your kit. Years ago. 3 years. Well, it's about time you did your own then. Come on, let's do it.
Right, that's Hazel told.
No, but what I'm saying is it's about finding what we love about those events, isn't it? Many of us are mission driven. That's why we're part of this brand. This isn't just about making money. That's a nice extra. It's about taking the product and letting people see the magic of our aromatherapeutic benefit of our products, the quality of them, chatting life stuff. I mean, endless conversations happen around those tables about all sorts of things. And in the same way, some of you said coffee and chat could be a lifeline. Well, some of those workshops just sitting around the table are a lifeline to some people. But we've just lost all that on Zoom a bit. Anyway, I'll shut up.
So I'm just going to go back. I think it was Caroline that said right at the beginning, what's your aim for these showcases? And I think it was Caroline that wrote fun. So just remember, amongst everything else, we all need to pay our electric bills and all of that stuff. But actually, as Sean said, this is meant to be fun. You'd go and, you know, do something else that's dull. So on that note, we will wish you a lovely evening. Thank you again for joining us. When Sean and I turn up at the beginning, we're like, oh, how many people will join us tonight? And you guys never fail us. So thank you very much for joining us. Please go ahead with your action plans. And if you need any help from us, you know where we are.
Can I just ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, how determined are you to get some of these in your diary and start this ball rolling? There isn't a right answer, please. Oh, okay, we've got a 10 from Caroline. That's good. Oh, we've got 10s and 8s in here. Job done. Lovely.
We go. Yeah.
I love it.
A few people hiding.
Yeah. A few people.
Yeah. I'm going with the 10 and the 8. Perfect. Let's finish on that.
Job done.
Yeah. All right. Lovely to see you all. Bye for now.